Hello and welcome to Pratfall. My name is Ben and I'm here with Sean. Hello, Sean.
Hi, Ben.
Now today we're talking Enshrouded, and unless you've been living in the Shroud for the last week or two, you may have noticed these big floating islands in the sky above Embervale. So we thought we'd have a nice little discussion about what it could all mean, didn't we?
Ben, are they teasing the next update in this update?
That is the question. That is the question. Now we've got a lot to cover here, Sean. As I mentioned, I think a lot of people, specifically Enshrouded players, obviously, have seen them by now. But I've not really seen anyone go sort of in depth in terms of talking about what it could all mean. So, going back to the roadmap way months ago now, you may remember the mountain biomes that were teased. Do we think these come before the mountain biome? Do we think it all comes together in a massive update?
Yeah, it's tough to say, isn't it? So originally I would have expected us to get the Sky Islands leading up to the release of the mountain biome. But if you actually look at the positioning of the Sky Islands, it almost looks like they're behind some of the mountains. So depending on how they do it, it almost feels like either, to me, they're going to release the mountains and then the Sky Islands, or potentially, and this may be wishful thinking, I think we might be getting both of them in one go, you know.
Do you really?
I really do, yeah. Like I say, you can see it. I'm pretty sure the Sky Islands are behind some of the mountains, which by definition would imply that we're either getting them together or the mountains first.
Okay, interesting. So we got relatively close to them, didn't we? If you go sort of like far northeast of the Black Mire, I think that's about as close as you can get to them right now before you hit the end of early access area. So we got some nice little shots for the video up there. And they appear quite big, even from there, but I feel like, as you mentioned, we're still pretty far away from them.
Yeah, I think they're massive.
They do seem to be massive.
Yeah,
they do.
Because even on some of the smaller Sky Islands, there's some smaller towers on there, and I think even those smaller towers are pretty big, let alone the big tower on the central island.
Well, that's it, yeah. So we've got like, what, one or two main sort of larger, like, central islands, and then a like cluster of smaller ones around them.
A smattering, if you will.
And there you go. In terms of the structures on them, it's obviously hard to make out from that distance, like the models aren't fully rendered in and whatnot. I've sort of speculated that they're like, well, I've been referring to them as sky castles, but I have no idea what they could be. There could be an ancient spire up there, but they, again, it seems like they're very far away and they look massive.
Yeah.
Bigger than an ancient spire. I could be wrong. My depth perception isn't great, admittedly. But what do you reckon? What do you think they could be?
Based on the trajectory of the game so far, I think we can potentially safely bet either Ancient Spire or Ancient Vault. So my guess would be it's an Ancient Vault, some kind of new Ancient Vault. We obviously had the Bard in an Ancient Vault that wasn't an Ancient Vault. So I think maybe we're seeing another different kind of Ancient Vault with potentially Ben. And again, this is definitely wishful thinking on my part. I'm hoping there's a new magic crafter in there.
A magic crafter, okay.
Yeah, perhaps we have the alchemist. Perhaps we're going to get a sorcerer to allow us to learn more advanced spells or something. I don't know.
Do you reckon?
That's what I'm hoping for. That's definitely not what I necessarily think is going to happen, but that's what I'd like to see. It would make sense with the floating islands magic, making them float some kind of ancient magic or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it would, but yeah, you couldn't just have an innkeeper or something in a floating island, couldn't you? So
yeah,
very interesting. But there's a bunch of structures up there though, so I don't know. Like, it seems like a bunch of the smaller ones have like something on them as well.
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot to explore up there.
So I personally don't think we're going to actually get this for a while.
Okay, you think it's a tease for the mid to far future?
Potentially. I find it weird, again, that, talking about the roadmap again, they teased a bunch of stuff in that around the start of the year, or what, like March sort of time?
Yeah.
And that was a roadmap for this year. So potentially, these might not even come until next year. Maybe they could even come with the full release of the game or whenever that is. I don't know.
Sure, you mean because the Sky Islands weren't actually in the roadmap. So you're thinking because this is a feature and presumably quite a large grand scale feature that wasn't in the roadmap, that maybe they're just teasing where the game's going to go in the long term.
That would be my initial reaction, but at the same time, I don't think they would want to get people really excited about these Sky Islands, because it's something that people have speculated about for months.
Yeah.
Since like the game came out, pretty much. There's been a lot of comparisons to Zelda with Enshrouded, and specifically like with the Sky Islands, Tears of the Kingdom. So I would hope they'd come sooner rather than later, but I'm not sure, just based on the fact that we still have a lot of things to cover from the roadmap.
Yeah, sure. So the way I look at it is, I 100% think the next update will be at least including the Sky Islands. I think, like you sort of touched on a minute ago, the problem is you can't really tease something like this in this update without them delivering in the next. I think like the main thing people will be thinking, like leading up to the next update, will be, oh, we're going to see those Sky Islands. So I think the devs would be risking, not disappointing people as such, but getting people's hopes up for something that isn't coming yet by, they could have just as easily left out that asset of the Sky Islands and just left it for another few months. I think they're teasing something that's coming next.
That's a very good point, to be fair.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to leave people hanging. Do you know what I mean?
True. So you saying that makes me think, okay, either, like you say, we get them with the next update, or potentially in the next update we get the mountain biome to where you can get like pretty close to them. Right, you can go essentially right underneath them, so they're all sort of rendered in, like the floating islands and stuff. You can get close to them, but there's no way to actually get on top of them until the following update.
Yeah, that would make sense. And to be fair, like, even if we don't have the Sky Islands in the next update, if it was the mountain biome update, I feel like people's sort of frustrations at not having the Sky Islands would be quelled by having the mountain biome, and we'd also see us inching ever so slightly closer towards the Sky Islands, so people would have a good idea of the trajectory of the next few updates by that.
Yeah, but I definitely think the next update has to be big now. Like you say, they can't just tease that and then push it off for another, even like 6 months.
Yeah.
It has to come this year, I think.
Yeah, there has to be something big coming for sure.
Yeah, so with us saying that, let's say potentially we do get the mountain biome next time. How do you think we get to them?
So, yeah, that's a tough one, isn't it? If I had to guess, I think it could work similarly to an ancient spire, perhaps. Maybe there's a teleporter right below them, some sort of monument below them, that teleports you into one of the smaller islands. You go to the top of the tower in the smaller island, that teleports you to the bottom of another tower, and you keep doing that until you get to the central island, maybe?
That would make the most sense, yeah.
Or perhaps, to be fair, Ben, what do you think of if they had some kind of, because it is very high up, what if we had some kind of gliding sort of section or a gliding challenge where there are certain things floating in the air that give you an updraft without any mana consumption, and you have to glide from one updraft thing to the next in order to reach the Sky Islands as a little mini game to introduce you to it?
Yeah, I guess again it kind of depends on how big they all are, because if that was a mini game, and that's the way you kind of get up each of the islands, that would be over very quickly. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good
but if
point.
they're all like slight, I mean, obviously we've got the central one, which is probably going to be pretty big. But in relation, I'd imagine the others, for the most part, are quite big as well. I think, like you said, I think the most logical thing would be a portal leading to each one.
Yes, like an ancient spire-esque challenge.
Yeah. That's what I like about it, though. We have no idea because we've not seen anything like this in the game yet. Like we've started with gliders, but nothing that helps us go up. It's not like, so in Tears of the Kingdom, I know you're not a massive Zelda fan, but in Tears of the Kingdom you have these like Zonai vehicles that you can make. I don't know if you've seen them, but they're powered by like this energy within the world, whatever, and you can create these like flying devices and things, right? We're obviously not going to get anything like that. But that is what my brain goes to, because this is the most similar comparison I can make.
Yes, of course.
So if it's not that, I'm like,
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a few ways they could take it. One thing I will say though is I would love to see more of these environmental teasers from Keen as they keep making updates. Sort of having something off in the distance outside of the playable area for us to see but not approach, I think is an incredible way to build hype and excitement for future updates. So I definitely want them to keep up with this sort of idea of that, because I think it will get people very, very hyped for every subsequent update. If we can see a low poly, low resolution sort of image of the next area while we're exploring the current area, I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah, see, that's the thing as well, man. The mountains were obvious. Well, I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they've been there since the game launched.
Since the game launched in early access, yeah, they've always been there.
Whereas the Black Mire, for instance, no one had any idea about. They just dropped that on us out of nowhere.
Yes.
The mountains were in the roadmap. I keep going back to the roadmap. I think it's very important. That was in the roadmap. The Black Mire wasn't mentioned in the roadmap. Right? They I think the only time they actually mentioned the Black Mire in some way was in the AMA when they mentioned a smaller sub-biome.
Yes.
Before the mountains update, which obviously ended up being Black Mire. But no one had any idea about that. But the mountains have been there the whole time, and we've been waiting, like, update after update. When are the mountains coming? So now they've added the floating islands. So we don't know, man. It could be months away. It could be several updates away.
Yeah, they could just be trying to keep the hype going for a longer period of time.
Because that's the thing, too. If they drop the Sky Islands, not literally, Jesus Christ.
Oh, my God. Don't stand underneath it.
Yeah. If they drop those now before the mountains, everyone's going to be like, when can we explore the mountains?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
See, this is why I think that they might be building towards the next update being a big scale with a large map section increase. Because obviously we had Hollow Halls, which added no map section, but it added a new area in terms of the instanced dungeons. We obviously had the Black Mire in Melodies of the Mire. This last update, we've had no map extension, although we've had a tease of it. We've just had gameplay changes. So I think some kind of map extension has to come again soon. Whether that's on a small scale, relatively small scale like the Black Mire, or on a large scale, I don't know. But I do think, I don't know, man. I've got this itchy, warm, fuzzy feeling inside, and it's telling me, Ben, it's speaking to me, and it's telling me it's going to be a big map increase, and we're going to have the mountains. And once we've crossed the mountains through this arduous journey, we're going to be rewarded, Ben, with these beautiful, intricate and interesting sky islands. Perhaps with a magic crafter. I'm gonna just plug that again. Keen, if you want to give me a new magic crafter, I'd like that.
No, you put that so eloquently.
Oh, thank you, man.
That was beautiful. Do you know what I think?
Did I tell the story beautifully?
You did. I was invested. I could see it before my very eyes. Do you know what I think, though?
What do you think, Ben? Tell me.
Super duper mega ultra trampolines.
Oh, that's how we get up.
That's how we get up, yeah.
The biggest trampoline you could possibly imagine.
Yep, and you can't collect it after you've used it once. You have to craft a new one every time.
Oh no, Jesus Christ.
Outside, and then you have to glide. You know, it just launches you directly up. Anyway.
There is one other thing that I just want to briefly touch on, Ben, that I want to get your input on.
Yeah.
So this isn't something directly relating to the tease of the Sky Islands, but based on what we've talked about in terms of the Sky Islands and also the mountain biome, assuming for argument's sake that I am correct and it is going to be quite a large scale update with a big map expansion, is it possible that, considering mountains and high up Sky Islands and cold snowy biome, is it possible that a weather system is on the way also?
Ooh.
We've speculated in the past in previous videos that the mountain biome would make sense to come with the weather implementation, with the snowiness and stuff like that. You'd want it to be at least able to snow while you're on the mountain biome. Mm-hmm. So what do you think? Do you think that's at all possible? Or again, am I thinking too big scale?
You may be. Could you imagine if we got the mountains the floating islands and the weather system in the same update.
Mate, I'd be happy waiting until Christmas if they just dropped all of that in one go.
Yeah, that would be massive, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I won't lie.
be.
I'd be happy waiting a long time if they could like just drop this insanely large scale update with like multiple new areas to explore, multiple new dungeons within them to explore, perhaps some unique bosses in some of those dungeons, as you and I have talked about as well.
Perhaps we can speculate about that in a minute. Personally, I don't know if that's Keen's style in terms of the updates that they drop, because they, we've obviously praised them a lot about how frequent they drop the updates, and they're not always huge like game-changing things, but they're very transparent and they like to keep us in the loop. And I can't see us going 4 or 5 months without anything new coming out.
After them being so consistent and so quick with getting stuff out, I suppose. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I think they constantly want to try and keep people engaged as much as possible. See, I think with this last update, we obviously got the gameplay modifiers, the armor and weapon stands, a few other things like that. But it's definitely not as flashy, let's say, as the updates we've had prior.
Yeah.
We had the Hollow Halls, 4 massive unique dungeons, like new enemies, new bosses, blah, blah, blah. Then we had the Black Mire, new biome, or sub-biome, I guess. Big trees and all these like new materials and things to craft with. So, we said before, we think the gameplay modifiers ultimately will do more for the game than either of those things I just mentioned. But they're not as flashy. And surface level, there's not a lot to look at compared to the others. So I think that's potentially why they've added this in the background now, to try for the people who might load into the game after the update and be like, oh, there's not a lot to do, is it? Where's all the enemies and the biomes and shit? And they'll see that and be like, oh, okay, oh, that's coming, cool, that's a reason for me to like keep coming back.
Yeah, I think that 100% makes sense. Yeah, it's this update has been a more, I agree with you, and we've discussed this before, a more game-changing update overall. But to the average player, like you say, less flashy, more subtle. So it makes sense that they'd feel the need to sort of go, oh well, I know there's no new area, guys, or no new enemies and things, but maybe you should take a look at this incredible giant Sky Island cluster that we've got going on.
Yeah. New enemies and bosses. What do we think? I think they should add more than we usually get. Well, with the Maya, we didn't get a new boss, did we even?
No, it was just an extension or progression of the Vukar tribe, I suppose.
Yeah, big Wookiee, innit?
Yeah. I think me and you obviously talked about this before. I think the main thing that would add, especially after this new update with the gameplay modifiers, I think the next thing that would really help the game to help with replayability overall and give people a reason to come back consistently is more unique bosses. So they're like they're mini tomb dungeons, where you find the bone block, for example, like those sorts of tombs. Imagine if they were a bit longer, a bit larger, and at the end you had a unique boss. Mm-hmm. And there were like even adding 5 of those, or even 3 scattered around the world, just a few unique bosses with unique attack patterns, with unique looks to them that need slightly different approaches. Like imagine, I think you'd probably agree, like that would get you excited. Even if you've already beat all of them, you'd want to be like, oh, Sean, do you fancy hopping on and going and killing this unique boss? Oh, we've not done that in a while.
Yeah, exactly. And with all the gameplay modifiers, you can have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
With the mountains, it obviously makes sense to have new types of wolves, maybe. Some like snow bears and all the sort of generic, stereotypical stuff that you would imagine in a fantasy game. Mountain
frost golems and things.
Yeah, ice spiders.
Yeah, there's all sorts you can do. In terms of the Sky Islands, can you think of any like boss that would suit that Because imagine if you get to the top of this central sort of spire in the main island, and imagine if you're up on this big, right on the top of the tower, it's a wide open space, and there's just a boss there waiting for you.
So I'm sort of imagining this sort of so you come into it. I'm sort of kind of like the pike, right? You enter the courtyard of the pike and the wisp wyvern jumps out.
Yeah.
So kind of like that. Imagine like a massive sort of clock tower or something.
Yeah, okay.
You get to the very top, you sort of look up, and what looks like this massive, I don't know, stone gargoyle atop the clock tower. And then it suddenly swoops down at you into the courtyard or wherever it is. And it's like a massive, like, stone griffin.
Oh, a griffin.
Yeah, and it spreads its wings and it roars and it just, starts flapping up at you and then it swoops down at you again. I think that would be sick. Don't ask me about the mechanics of the fight because I haven't got a clue. I'm not a games developer. But I think that I'd love to. I don't know why. The griffin is just the first image that came into my head when I thought about a potential boss in the Sky Islands.
It makes sense, yeah. Like this big ancient griffin that's been enchanted. Even like an ethereal
sort of thing.
Yeah,
like a bunch of magical energy around it. So I don't know.
Yeah. But to be honest, anything of that vein, and any big epic moment, sort of akin to the first time, like you say, you fight the wisp wyvern, that sort of oh my god moment. I think the game would do really well to add a bit more of that. Yeah, I think Griffin's a really good idea, mate.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, I think that'd be cool. Keen, if you're listening, if this update is coming way down the line, then there you go.
And if there is a Griffin, I'd just like to suggest that Ben records the voiceover for the roars. I'd love to see that.
Oh, I think you'd do a better job, man, but I'd give it a go.
How about we both do a roar of the same length and they combine them together?
That we could do. Keen, listen up. We know you watch. We know you watch our videos. Right? You pretend you don't, but we know you do. Right, we're getting a bit off track. So one thing I will say, I would imagine there's going to be a lot of flying enemies up there. That just kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
That scares me as a warrior, Sean.
Yeah, we've discussed this multiple times, that you as a melee struggle with the flying enemies. Yeah, you need more to, like, even a skill, like throw your sword. I was going to say, like add a few new skills to the tree. Throw your sword potentially. What if it consumed like mana, right? And there's like a boomerang essentially. You throw it and then it sort of comes back to you or something. I don't know. Yeah.
Or even like a jump in sort of upswing, or like upward thrust.
Yeah.
Just the amount of times I've had like level 1 critters just kind of hovering above the ground and I just can't hit them, and it's frustrating, man. I don't want to have to use a bow all the time. Because it breaks the, I know it's silly to say to some people, but it breaks the immersion a bit for me when I'm trying to play like a purely melee warrior class tank, and I have to whip out a big blue bow. Last thing I want to quickly touch on, Sean, unless you have any other points, in which case we can come back to those.
No, go for it.
In terms of the Shroud, do you think these islands would be entirely unaffected by the Shroud?
Ooh. Yeah, because the Shroud is certainly like Deadly Shroud is, and Shroud by extension, is usually where water would be, or underground, or low to the floor. Yeah, which means potentially, and it goes back to like enemies and bosses, potentially a whole new sort of clan or kind of enemy, right? If we can't have like the fell Shroud enemies, there has to be some kind of new faction of enemies.
Potentially. Bro, what getting a bit, it gets back to the wishful thinking. What if there's a whole civilization up there?
Oh my god.
That are living there and have escaped the Shroud. It's like I'm trying to think of something you'd understand. Some people will understand this, like Attack on Titan.
I don't know.
That's an animation.
Yeah, I know that. I don't.
So they all live.
Robots.
What?
It's robots.
It's not robots, but it's close, I suppose. So everyone lives in this massive like city, right, surrounded by these massive walls, and outside the walls are these massive titans, right, giants essentially.
Okay.
So they all live in this bubble away from all the danger on the outside.
Right.
Think of like The Walking Dead and stuff like that.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah. What if that's the case? Because if the shroud kind of rises and it's all sort of surface level, like you say, in the water and stuff like that, I don't know how they'd get up there. But what if there's people up there? What if these are the NPCs?
Townsfolk.
Yeah, the townsfolk.
Yeah. Oh, they're up there and they're safe from the shroud, but they're also running out of food, running out of water, and they need rescuing and bringing back to the real world.
Well, that's it, man. The townsfolk are on the roadmap. But how do you just like naturally introduce townsfolk? Because we can't just one day load into the game and just see a load of people just randomly spawned into the world.
Yeah, there has to be a sensible reason for them to be there and stuff.
Yeah, and they wouldn't just all be hanging out in the mountains. You'd be cold as shit.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd be cold up there too, but you'd be away from the shroud. I don't know. My brain's going 1,000 miles an hour now. I'm just thinking about all these possibilities.
And there are so many possibilities. It's very exciting.
Yeah. To you guys listening, who's still listening now, we thank you first of all. Thank you for still being here toward the end of the video. Obviously, if you have any thoughts on the things that we've just discussed, let us know in the comments. When do you think this update's gonna come? Do you think there's gonna be people up there on the islands?
And what would you like to see as well? What do you think we're going to get realistically? And what's your most wishfully thinking thought about what you'd like to see coming soon to Enshrouded?
Yeah, so let us know in the comments, first of all, what you think is going to happen next, and then what you want to happen next. Consider subscribing to the channel for more content like this. As we mentioned before, we cover pretty much everything Enshrouded, including news videos, we've got builds, we've got guides, we've got little speculation videos like this. And hop over to our Discord, where we have other lovely people who enjoy Enshrouded, and we'll have discussions like this over there as well. But until next time, I've been Ben.
And I've been Sean.
Thank you for watching.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.